Hello, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 9 of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. We are live because this is our season finale, and we are very excited to be here with you. Virtual Coffee is a group of developers at all stages of their coding journey, and they're here on this podcast sharing their stories and what they've learned. But really, it's the last episode of the season, and so it is the three of us sharing our stories and what we've learned. So we'll do an intro question in a second, but do you want to does anybody want to give us an intro question? Hey, Deborah K.
Do you want to use the one from BC? Oh, that might be a spoiler for when this was done, but like today. Because
Yes.
I didn't hear Dan's because he wasn't in my room and I don't think he could make it today, Bekah. So the question is, do you like sour? And if you do, what is your favorite sour food? And Becca's already making faces, so.
My name's Bekah. I'm a technical community builder from a small town in Ohio, and sour is the worst. Like, I am pretty open about different tastes, but I draw the line at sour. If I drink like any kind of sour beer, I immediately have heartburn, and sour just makes your face go like, and that means it's bad. So hard pass on sour. I will take bitter all day long.
All right. Hi, I am Dan. I do computer things in Cleveland. And yes, I don't judge foods based on facial expressions, in general. I like some sour things, I definitely like a little bit of sour in a lot of things, I like we had tacos the other night, squeeze the lime on top of the chicken. Really, really good. It doesn't make like the whole taco taste sour, you know what I mean? But it's just like that little.
Well, I like
zest
citrus.
of-
That doesn't really count as sour.
Okay, I mean, like it's just like a little touch of it, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. But I don't like I was saying this in the room. I'll eat like a Sour Patch Kids, for instance, which is like sort of sour. It's mostly sugar anyway,
worst.
but like definitely my last choice of from the Halloween bucket that my kids always have full of candy somehow all year round. So yeah, that's my answer. I'm ambivalent. Citrus, I'm a huge fan of, and I think sour is part of the citrus thing, so
I
can't
refuse
just
to
say I
accept
don't like
that
sour.
because I love citrus.
Fair enough. What up, Kirk?
I have a lot. You've been saying so. Okay, so first off, my name's Kirk. Let's just get out of the way. That's irrelevant at the moment. In our room, immediately we had the discussion of, does citrus count? And I said yes, because I'm going to say this thing that I hate. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, which now also feels like a sour reference.
Didn't we make a rule that you weren't allowed to say that anymore?
That was so long ago,
It has to be one of the worst phrases in the entire world.
But also, like everything you said about why you don't like I want sour things like once a year, and when I eat, I do make the faces of like a baby when they're given. Like I do all of it. I can't help it, and then everyone around me just laughs at my face. But like I just fully lean into that, It's like those old lemon drop candies. Like I do it, and then like my soul just like shudders, and then it's great. But it's like pepper, right? Like we're not supposed to eat pepper, right? Like pepper just birds don't care about capsaicin. So plants made spicy so that mammals wouldn't eat the food. Birds will eat the food because birds travel farther and distribute the seeds farther, like when they poop. But like humans or mammals, but we're just like, hey, this like hurts, but I'm kind of into it. And that's why like so, we're already doing stuff that we're not supposed to be doing. I mean, like sour is supposed to be like, this is probably not meant to be consumed, as is bitter, but here we are. So just lean into it. It's bad because it's good. Bad because it's good. Put it on a t-shirt. That's my intro.
I've never heard anyone say it that way. And also, I will do what I want with this stream because I have the power. So if you're listening, I discovered that I can change the way things look, and this is going to be fun.
This is bad.
That's great.
So welcome, everybody, to this live podcast. Thanks for all those who are joining us live. if you have a question or if you have a topic that you want to hear us talk about, go ahead and put that in the chat, and we'll do an excellent job of keeping up with it at all times.
We promise.
All right, why don't we get started with what's going on now at Virtual Coffee? So Dan is in his pumpkin jacket, so I think it's appropriate if he starts this conversation.
Hello, my name is Daniel T. Pumpkins. Yes, I've started referring to this as my pumpkin regalia. I don't know if I'm using that correctly, but we lost Kirk. He'll be back. Oh, there he is. I don't know where he went, but he's back. Hello. So
My internet has been
all right. Well, hopefully we don't lose you for good. You're back for now. What is going on in Virtual Coffee right now? It's Hacktoberfest, and so we've mentioned this a couple times on. I don't know if we've mentioned it recently on the pod. We've been talking about it a lot in Virtual Coffee. So Hacktoberfest is a month-long sort of celebration of open source, right? And it's originally and still is run by a company called DigitalOcean, and they do a monthly thing every year. And the object is really for contributors to submit 4 pull requests in the month of October and have them accepted, hopefully. And if you can hit that goal, then they, celebrate you and usually send some swagger or something like that as well. And they do a really good job of doing this and providing a lot of resources for contributors and a lot of resources for open source maintainers and things like that. And so we, a couple of years ago, decided to piggyback on that and basically help. Our idea 3 years ago was to help our members get the Hacktoberfest accomplished, and so that was 3 years ago. We did this the first time at Virtual Coffee, and we had a lot of fun. And last year we had a huge number of people join us and contribute a whole bunch of awesome things to open source projects. And we're doing it again. And so we have at Virtual Coffee, we have a Hacktoberfest, room where we have been chatting and sharing lots of like open issues and, providing help and support for people. And we have the Hacktoberfest co-working room, which is a special version of our co-working room, for people who are Hacktoberfestering. And yes, it's a word. And what else is going on?
Yeah, I think it's just
Hacktoberfestering.
festing. You're just festing.
Yes.
Hacktoberfesting.
I'm Hacktoberfestering. And listen, who has the jacket? Okay. It's me. And so I make the rules, and I, all decisions come through this jacket.
When you invited me to the podcast, I thought I was coming up here as a creative consultant. So to hear this now is really...
Well, what are you going to do?
Executive producer.
And so we're almost halfway through October, and I know a lot of our members have been doing some contributions. We have our traditional issue on the Virtual Coffee site that people can complete to, get one of their pull requests in to start us off. We have some videos on our site for some of our Hacktoberfest things that we've done so far this month. And did I miss anything about current events?
Julia put in the chat, Dan makes the rules, Bekah controls the settings, and Kirk is an unwitting victim again. Sorry, Kirk.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. That's
No, that captures our dynamic pretty well. Julia's right. She's insightful.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to push back a little bit against Dan makes the rules.
I mean, you can push back all you want, but still, I have the jacket. And so what are you going to do? Exactly.
This is how my criminal story starts. I will come and take the jacket. If that's where the power is, I will acquire the jacket.
Before you came on the stream, Beck, I was saying like Dan in that jacket. I don't know if anybody remembers like the mask.
Yes.
it's Stanley Ipkiss. It's a similar sort of, there's this garment imbued with chaos, and then he knows he's not supposed to put it on, but he does. Then he becomes this entity, and then we just all have to deal with it until the jacket comes off. It's like the Hulk, but for Hacktoberfest. The Hulktoberfest.
I feel like Hulk
Oktoberfestering.
loses clothes as he turns into Hulk, though. So.
So the anti-Hulk.
No, I'm not anti-Hulk. I love Hulk. Also, the shout out She-Hulk has been really awesome too. So
Hulktoberfest. That's exactly right, Tom Cud.
Yes, Tom Cud. And yes, so Tom, I saw that you followed us on Twitch. I think I get emails for some reason every time somebody follows us. So if you haven't followed us on Twitch, please do. If you haven't followed our podcast, you can find the link on our site, virtualcoffee.io, and follow us on Twitter too. /podcast. Yeah, there's links, but yes, /podcast if you want to go right there. We have a bunch of people in the chat that we've actually talked to on the Virtual Coffee Podcast, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and some of our maintainers are here as well and contributors for Hacktoberfest. So, how's everyone's Hacktoberfest going? Kirk, are you Hacktoberfesting?
I am Hacktoberfesting in the way, and maybe this is really relevant. I guess we've had 3 Hacktoberfests so far. I had one where I was a maintainer, and that was super cool. And I have one where I was just a contributor, and that was also super cool. And this time, I feel like most of what I'm doing has been mentoring, and that has also been super cool. So I'm really, I'm doing all the things. I'm getting the full experience just spread across 3 years. And that's like totally okay, right? Which I feel like has been it's always sort of the theme of Hacktoberfest, but especially this time, like people like, what do I do? Or how come? Like, you can do whatever you're comfortable with or whatever you want. Or like, if you do want to get outside of your comfort zone, like there's a difference between stepping outside your boundaries or pushing your boundaries and like jumping far away from it. Don't do that. But, if you can find a little way to move it, then I think that's been really good. It's been really good.
I feel like I take the opposite approach where I'm very resistant to doing many of the things in Hacktoberfest. And then like 2 days before, I suddenly decide I'm going to do all of the things. Let's start new projects. Let's resurrect projects I haven't worked on in a year. Let's mentor. Let's contribute. I'm not really sure why, but I can't help it. I can't not do the things because they look so exciting.
Yeah, I'm kind of with that too. One of the things I like about this is that it helps me, having like a date that a thing needs to be done by or whatever helps me do it, and that includes like making a bunch of issues for the virtual coffee site, for instance. I know in my head a bunch of things that need to be done and we could use some help on. It always takes time and a little bit of like mental energy to write those issues, and so sometimes they get put on the back burner. But since we had Hacktoberfest coming up, it was a really good time to put some effort into doing that and creating those issues. And it's been really awesome having people contribute back to the site. And we always have some contributors throughout the year, but it's I don't know. It's been fun having a bunch of different people, and all that like kind of goes to show like create the issues, and probably people will come and help out. As a maintainer, you know what I mean. It's like one of those things where we now have a bunch. I mean, there's the member issue that all of our virtual coffee members are welcome to like do, but the features and stuff, it's they need to have the options to work on to do the work, and so it's been really fun kind of doing back and forth with people and getting some new stuff going. So I've been enjoying that a lot.
Tom says it sounds like we're learning from the current virtual coffee book club start finishing, which I wanted to get, but I couldn't get it in audiobook format. And I knew if I ordered a hard copy, it would sit with all the piles of hard copies of books that I have yet to read.
Yeah, I have it in audio.
That's the that's the only way I could figure out how to read. But I did find an audiobook format, and it is really good. And
Nice.
I think I just got it on like Audible.
Yeah.
I don't have Audible or understand how to use Audible, so I don't Audible things.
What?
Let it be known, Becca, that all
Call it.
Audible, well, because you have to like sign up for Audible, right? And then you pay money for Audible, and then you have to pay money for the books too, right?
Yeah, you get one free month. Pretty sure,
That's not
and then
very
you can
much.
pay
Yeah,
more.
like your subscription, gets you like a book token, and you can like, hey, here's this token, give me a book. And if you don't use your token for the month, they like stack up. And if you want more books more than the token, then you have to like
Pay for
get
them.
those. Well, you just have to like get those.
Well,
tokens.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you pay for a token.
So-
So all books cost the same amount. It's one token. Anyway, this is our
One
Audible
token.
corner.
We are not sponsored by Audible. No, we won't be.
But if you'd like to,
I'll never be sponsored by Audible.
Oh my gosh.
okay, this is a weird tilt. Listen, anyone out there, any of the podcast sponsors, if you sell mattresses or shaving stuff,
BetterHelp
or
therapy. That's on all of my true crime podcasts.
Data Dog, if you're listening, Data Dog, sure. Listen, we are ready. But the book, just to say, like, I've been the process of making, and we talk about this a lot, like the process of making a repo ready for contributions is, like Dan says, like it's non-trivial. Evergreen shout out to Nick Taylor. I love Nick Taylor's been super active in the Hacktoberfest channel, and he and Yearn have their project that they've been working on. But I also really appreciate how, like, as soon as Nick sort of like spots something that's wrong, I feel like he's like, yeah, I should just turn this into an issue, and he just like does it. And I feel like I probably make things more than they need to in my head. I feel like I need to craft like the perfect issue every time. And I feel like he's willing to just, well, get it up there. If I need to fix it, I'll fix it later, but it's there. And it's like, yeah, you can grab this if you want. And it may end up being that you as the maintainer might end up doing this thing, but it's like you gave people a chance to like try it. I don't know. That sort of ties into one of the aspects of having an open source repo is like that willingness to let go. Like I have to let other people sort of like be a part of this thing, and they don't think like me, and like I can put stuff in an issue, but at the end of the day, like they're the ones figuring it out, and you sort of have to be okay with that. And I think if you're somebody who has, I wouldn't say issues is a weird, if you have difficulties or sort of like letting go of certain things, like making it open source is a great way to realize like, oh, I can't hoard this, because I'll stress myself out. You sort of have to kind of set it free and let it be a community thing, an organic thing. And I really like seeing like the Virtual IO website. Like I can really say, oh yeah, a bunch of people have like helped make this what it is. And it's really cool.
It is really cool.
I think, the idea of letting it go and putting it out there is a really good one, because I think too, like sometimes as a maintainer or somebody who's been working on a project, you might get stuck on an idea and somebody might come along. They might have a better idea or they might have a different approach. And I think that one of the fun things is like keeping an open mind about how people will understand the project and taking their feedback and building in a process to have that feedback, because it's not just about helping and supporting contributors. I think it's about learning as a maintainer too. And that's been one of my favorite parts. I actually think that my favorite part of Hacktoberfest for the last 3 years has been being a maintainer and being able to interact with others and all of our contributors, and to learn from them and to hear what they have to say about things. And that was an experience the first year. I know that I didn't realize how much I would learn from being a maintainer.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to phrase it. Maybe like entice people if you're considering like, oh, like a lot of people, the framing is like, oh, well, I don't know enough to be a maintainer. Right. But I'm like, but if you have an idea and you want to see it to fruition, the best way to learn about it might be to like invite other people to help you. And you just just get that for free. Like you get help, and you get people who are going to teach you stuff, and you get to finish the thing you wanted to work on. Like it's all upsides here. And it's weird where people will work on my project and like, hey, thanks for letting me work on this. I'm like, I didn't know how to do that. That's why I made the issue. This is great. Now I do. And it's done. I wish I could do this for every aspect of my life, like my chores and other obligations. It's like, or just all the times where it's like, I don't know how to do this thing, and like doing it by myself feels like a real struggle. And we talk sometimes in the Slack about like neurodiversity and just like people having different modes and the things we have to do sometimes just to figure things out. And yeah, sometimes the answer is, oh, I just need some help on this. And open source feels a lot like that. I want to do this thing. I need some help. And then they help me. Bekah, no one noticed that your camera went off, I promise, except everyone
It left for a
noticed.
while. This keeps happening. I did a live stream before this, and I couldn't get my camera to work. And then midway, in the middle of a sentence, I just totally disconnected. It was awesome.
All right.
It started. We were talking about like old tech, and then it just became like weird UIs, and then just like all the weird quirks of technology that we have to deal with. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Now that we've just been dunking on technology for the last 10 minutes, everyone here who works in this industry can get back to talking about it. Sometimes, but I guess, I don't know, it's because we like this stuff that we also notice this stuff and we talk about it. That's okay.
I always love it when people in the wild make a comment to me about technology. They're like, oh, technology, I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Sorry, those.
Trust me.
Yeah, no, I said in the chat when we were talking during that discussion, there's nobody that hates computers more than developers. like it took my wife a while to really understand that, but now she's like, she'll have like her grandma will ask if I could like help her. I mean, I'm fine to help her, but like, she's like, oh, he does computer stuff. He loves computers. And she's like, no, he hates computers. I'm like, I really do. I'm like,
I had a friend ask me to help with her printer, and I was like, oh no, I don't do printers. I when my printer doesn't work, I just buy a new one because that's easier than trying to fix existing printers.
I worked IT at college, and so the job is mostly just like going around to professors' offices and fixing their stuff. And yeah, we had a rule like printers, you only spend like 5 minutes trying to fix whatever it is, and then you throw it out and buy and like give them a new one. It's like they're always just like, printers are a nightmare. They always have been. They still are. I don't know why they still are, but they definitely are.
I don't understand. I can buy a printer and it works like perfectly for 30 days, and then it like hits that mark and it just dies. It doesn't do any of the things that it did before. I feel like it's making a decision to not work.
If you're willing to indulge in conspiracy theories, there's a perfectly valid explanation why.
I am always here for the conspiracy theories.
But I was going to say this conversation, and it feels like similar ones we've been having for a while, just about like, we said how vast this like tech is as a word means. I don't even know what it means. Like, it's just, there's so much, and it's weird because we say things like software developer, and like, those are two words. Yes, I don't know what those mean, and they have very little to do with what my job is. And then like words like full stack or front end or back end, it's like, that's still so incredibly vague as to be almost ultimately useless. Like, I don't know what you do when you say that at all. I could guess, and I would probably be wrong.
Yeah, we actually spent our entire hour today at Virtual Coffee talking about that exact thing. Mostly because I said in my intro that I don't like the word full stack, and when I was talking about myself, and like I don't feel like it's very descriptive for what I do, and then that started a whole thing.
So instead of saying full stack, you just say you do things with computers.
Yeah.
That's much
at,
better.
at coffee I ended up with I do typey. So that's
You know, it's like explain it like I'm five, the subreddit. It's like, what a computer program, like I do typey, and then you just do is that.
Mhm.
Recently, I've been like very specific. It's like, oh, I write JavaScript sometimes and TypeScript sometimes and Python sometimes and SQL sometimes. And sometimes I'm clicking buttons in the GUI. And that's what I do right now. That will probably change in 2 months or 6 months or something.
I was
Yeah.
at the hospital with one of my kids. They had to get a test, and the hospital intake person asked, she was like, well, what do you do? And in my mind, what she really wanted was just like a job title so she could put it down on the form, right? And I was like, but she said, what do you do? And so I was panicked because I'm like, how do I explain what I do? I do things with the computer and code and community and education, and I like went on this long tangent about what I did. I was like, oh, my title, it's technical community builder. It was like really, really I don't think that she was ready for that at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah, I can feel that whole thing happening every time somebody asks me, and or every time I have to do an intro at Virtual Coffee. It's like I'm like, well, do I do the half-hour discussion version, or do I just say I do computer things? Yeah, Jesse was saying, yeah, if you talk to somebody that are in tech, then you be more descriptive, and if it's somebody that doesn't know anything, you say I build websites and apps, and that's mostly what I do too. Yeah, so
I don't do
I
that though.
well, right. I mean, yeah, it's a little, but you have a job title, right? That you forgot
Yeah,
about, but
that
like at
does
least you
make it
have that
much difference.
to
Well,
fall
she
back
didn't
on.
ask me my job title. She said, what do you do?
Right.
Which to me is like, now I have to tell a story of the thing that I do.
Like, who are you? Like, as a
Right.
person. And yeah, I will write it in this form. There's a section for it.
What it felt like. She wanted my bio.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead, Kirk.
well, Dan, like you, and then if I think of like how Bekah would describe her role, if I think of how there's the overlap, like there's overlaps, but I I make an app for people who make apps and websites, So like it's very
Your
similar, but
meta
I
app
don't know, just,
maker.
oh yeah, I've been trying to like sneak the word meta into like all aspects of my life because it just feels cooler if you can like, but like a meta way.
Sponsored by Meta.
Um, whoa. I mean, if they're tired of React and they want something else that's like super cool, I'm just saying, give a whole podcast.
Next time we talk, Kirk's going to show up with like the NASCAR outfit, the hat, and the jersey and stuff. Except it's all just going to say Meta all over the place.
I cannot describe to you how foreign the entire concept of NASCAR is to every aspect of my life. But it looks cool. But just to say, I guess Hacktoberfest also, I feel like, did that in a big way of sometimes, especially in online spaces, you feel, what's that word? It feels like everyone around you sort of like doing the same thing, or you get that feeling like everyone's doing the same thing. And then you start comparing yourself to everyone else because you're like, everyone knows about like React. Why don't I know about React? Or like everyone knows about Git. It's like, why don't I know about Git? Like these things, there's certain things that we just talk about more. And you start like comparing yourself to other people. Oh, everyone knows about AWS. Why don't I know about AWS? And Hacktoberfest was like a real, like, good reminder that there's a lot going on here. You can only know like 1% of 1%, like the very thinnest slice. And you probably like what you have more in common with people is what you don't know than what you know. So when it comes to open source, like you're going to feel like a beginner in some things and you're going to feel better in other things. And like everyone's doing that all at the same time. And you really shouldn't like compare yourself to others. Like they have a whole life of experiences that have led to like where they are and what they feel good at. And if you actually ask them, they probably feel like you. They're probably, I also do not know what I'm doing. And I also feel like everybody else online knows more than me. And I also feel like, I'm just, how did Julia's daughter describe it, as staring at the screen for a couple minutes and hitting Control Z 75 times. That is how I feel all the time. That is my job. But yeah, Hacktoberfest is a really good reminder of that in a way that doesn't feel like destructive, but like feels really healthy. Like we're all trying to figure it. It's like for 1 month, everyone tries to figure something out, and like we all accept that we're trying to figure it out, and that's great.
Yeah, totally. And like this is just, we talk about this every time we talk about Hacktoberfest, but like there's a lot of um I don't know, there's a lot of like social things that go around with contributing to open source projects too, and that is something that causes anxiety for me, especially when I hadn't really done much open source contributing before. I worked as a developer for a long time before I ever, did any open source stuff. And that's one of the things that we try to push here too. Like with our thing is not just like, oh, writing code or whatever, but how to like engage in a community, an open source community, whether it's a big one or a small one, and how to navigate that without feeling. I mean, I suppose you're always going to feel nervous the first time you do something, but hopefully we can, help you kind of go along and do it. And so that's one of our other, I don't know, one of the other things that we try to like concentrate on is just helping people kind of start that journey, because once you get a couple under your belt, it becomes like it opens your eyes to all the things you can do, and everything else becomes a little more possible if you've done it a couple times, maybe in a controlled environment like at First for Coffee.
But it's nice too that we have maintainers who are members, because they might be maintaining a project for fun for Hacktoberfest to help people get in, or they might be maintaining a larger project for work. But I think that when you see other people who in those larger projects, let's say, and you have some experience doing the things that we do at Virtual Coffee, then it helps to like create that path to being able to take on things that maybe you would have been too scared of before, or to go outside of Virtual Coffee to do the things. And I think that decreasing those barriers to entry, providing support and mentorship, and that community excitement around things goes a long way to improving the experience of everybody who's involved in open source contributions.
Yeah, it reminds me not to get too meta, but I've been like re-binging. I've been binging like all the episodes of the podcast again, and I was listening to the one with Julia, which is one of my, as I told, it's the most chaotic episode. It's just like the first 20 minutes is just so off the rails. It's the Bloom Dan, which is one of my favorite Dans. Um, you know, but you all were talking about like teaching and the concept of teaching, what feels good about teaching, right? And like that moment where you help somebody else like truly gain insight, right? Not just like you told them something, they're like, yeah, okay, but like you like explained something, or you showed them something, or you helped them, and then like they like say like, I get it, and like this real moment of like pride and joy and just like self-validation. That feels really good. That feels like it almost like, I almost want to say it's like an almost fundamental human experience. Like you feel it like when you're with your kids or with family, or like, like young people, where it's like, I helped you figure out a thing and I can like watch that happen. So I feel like Hacktoberfest also has a lot of those moments where like you're on either side of it. It's like, oh, we both did this, and now there's like a real something just got like better. Like this person learned something, like I helped them. I love that feeling. Like I'd do that all day, or I want to do that all day. So that, I think that's like my favorite. I love like it's a real, a lot of like Hacktoberfest for me is like really like vicarious. Like I can't always like jump into stuff, but if I'm just hanging out in Slack, it sounds like, hey, this person helped this person figure this out. They're like, hey, I didn't know Git stuff, and then someone helped me with Git. I'm like, this is great. Like this is like, this is my television. I don't know. This is like I can't think of like a thing that I like more than just like watching people go oh, I figured this thing out, and then like the double up, like, oh, someone else helped me figure this thing out. Um, that feels like all of it really, and like everything we do from the podcasts or like the videos or even having like the one big pairing thing or doing stuff together or like the website, like it's all seeped, like we're all funneling towards making that moment like super achievable for people, right? Because like that's the thing where you go like, oh, actually I'm not like worse than everybody else. Oh, actually I think I do like this work in this field that I've chosen to do. I do feel like I belong in this space. Like it's those moments that make this happen. um we talked about a little bit in VC today of like, so much so much for a lot of people of the developer experience, especially when it gets is like just developing alone, just like figuring it out by yourself. It's just like you're online and it's all by yourself, and there's nothing like wrong with that, but it also feels really good when you can do stuff with other people. And I feel like sometimes that's the difference between, yeah, I want to keep going at this, or yeah, I don't. It's not like you couldn't have done it or you're not capable, but just things are better sometimes if there's other people to work on. Like I'm trying to think of what if football, not saying soccer, you can't make me, was just like a one-on-one sport. Same 90 minutes, same field, but just one person. And that's kind of how it feels when you're working on a problem by yourself sometimes. Just like, this is so much, I can't finish. But if like 10 other people, then it feels better. The football, that is, not soccer for anyone. It's football.
I like that analogy. I do. I'm getting distracted because like Bekah seems like she really has something to say, or is maybe there's an animal loose in her room. I'm not sure. But if you're listening to this later, Bekah is just like losing her mind while Kirk is talking.
I'm struggling because I'm really tired and I didn't get a cup of coffee before this, and like I'm definitely into this conversation, and I'm just having a hard time with dealing with the physical symptoms of tiredness. Sorry. I'm sorry. I might go get a cup of coffee.
Oh man.
Well, also, I had a meeting today and then I live streamed, and this is the second live stream. And I am sorry that this is the third person people interaction that I've done of the day, because they had me at my best in the first meeting. Now I'm whatever this 2:00 Bekah.
Damn, we should give her the jacket. She needs the
Thank you.
Pass.
You have to. Maybe think about it for more than 2 seconds, Dan.
Pass.
Tom Cud has given me permission to go get coffee, so that's what I'm going to do. So you can talk, and I will mute and go get my coffee, and then I will be fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Ooh, Julia, so Julie just mentioned Hollywood Squares in the chat, and I feel like I've spent the last 2 years not seeing the parallels between every Zoom meeting and Hollywood Squares, and it's weird that there hasn't been like more of an intersection between those two concepts. But we can explore that at another time.
All right. Well, Bekah's gone. So Kirk,
She's like,
what
I guess I'm Bekah now.
No, you're Kirk.
Again.
Should we just talk about TypeScript? TypeScript Tuesdays take over.
Well, it just becomes TypeScript Tuesdays. I mean, we can talk about TypeScript in the frame of reference of Hacktoberfest, sort of like a manifestation of everything we've been talking about, right? You and I have been sort of learning how to use TypeScript together in a code base, and we've been working on it. Bekah really changed.
Had a wild Jesse sighting.
This reminds me, there was a time, I feel like in the early days of virtual coffee, eons ago, I feel like we did not go one VC meeting without Bekah being like Ashton Kutcher punked by at least one of her kids.
Yeah.
And there was a day where you locked your door. You're like, I've locked the door. They can't come in. And then they opened the window and you could just hear the sounds of children spilling in through the windows.
So my bedroom has doors to it, but they don't go anywhere. They open up and there's like a railing there, so you can't get through. And so they climbed up the house. They pushed like a play set and climbed a story up, opened the door, and came into the bedroom because I locked them out.
It's called manifesting your dreams.
Yesterday I had a meeting and my 6-year-old came in to tell me during the meeting that my 8-year-old was twerking at her. I was like, hashtag mom life.
Oh, God. That is amazing. Is that the new? My sister's staring at me for the modern day?
It must be. It must be. Yeah, I hate when people twerk at me too.
With me is fine, but at me is unacceptable.
So I'll take you on a tangent. I might have told this story before, but never on a recording. When I was in college, I went to Prague for spring break with like the business group, and we went to this dance club, and this guy was tickling my armpit while I was dancing, and I was like, is this some kind of thing that they do in Prague? And I don't know who was at Virtual Coffee when I told the story, and they're like, that is definitely not something that they do in Prague. That guy was just really weird. Cool. Now you all know about it too.
I mean, the whole time you were saying, I don't know what I thought you were gonna say, but that wasn't it. Tickling my armpit wasn't where I thought.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I still don't know, and this is like many years later. How do you respond to someone tickling your armpit on the dance floor? Go ahead and throw that in the chat.
That's an interesting question. Maybe when he was 6 and his sibling was 8, they twerked at him, and he changed.
That's a good question. Were you twerking at him? Is this in response to some,
most assuredly not twerking at him.
I mean, yeah, there's different kind. I mean, there's like twerking at somebody where you want them to dance with you, and there's twerking at somebody where you're trying to bother them, right? And so
I don't know how to twerk. Okay.
Well, obviously, you have somebody in your house that can teach you. So,
Dan, it feels like you're saying that with like the sort of like father-kid moment. Well, there's different types of
that's right.
There's when people twerk at you menacingly,
right?
But then there's when people twerk at you in a positive,
yeah, invitingly, right?
And
that's when you tickle their armpits.
You should just never tickle someone's armpits. I'm a firm believer in not tickling armpits. So hopefully nobody is tickling your proverbial armpits on your Hacktoberfest repository.
There she is, the master of segues.
But also like your real, like not, it doesn't, metaphorically or not, probably no. I don't think you need to like put it in a code of conduct, but maybe after that guy went to that dance place in Prague, they put it on their code of conduct on the door, like, like must wear shirt, no armpit tickling, don't torture people. Proverbial Armpit is an excellent band name, Tom. You are right. I think when we decided to do this one live, we thoroughly did not anticipate the fact that we would have to talk while reading chat. And as everyone here knows, that is very difficult for us.
I mean, yeah, I there's been a couple comments in the chat about, yes, you shouldn't just in general, life rule, don't tickle strangers' armpits. You want any armpit tickling to be consensual. All right, hold on. There's a delivery person walking in right now.
That's perfectly.
That was really well timed. Okay, cool. Well, I got my package delivered. Well, hopefully he walked out with the knowledge, the wisdom to not tickle people's armpits that haven't given prior consent.
They walked in.
Listen, we need a sticker in the virtual coffee store that that talks about that.
If somebody makes that sticker, I will put it on the store.
Yes.
I promise.
And we also need a structured YOLO sticker. We're about to run a contest or something to get those in there.
Ooh,
make an issue for armpit tickling. I really enjoy derailing the conversation.
Yes. No, Kirk said, yes, imagining the delivery person walking in, seeing my jacket and talking about armpit tickling in a stream. Yeah, no, I imagine that gentleman will be sharing that story when he gets back from his shift.
I'm gonna say something. I mean, you're probably like, you don't even place on like the weirdest events that have happened while he's delivering things, right? Like, so
true.
I always like to remind myself of that sometimes. Whenever I'm like, oh, was that weird or awkward? I'm like, it doesn't even rank on the things happening in the world. Bekah got armpit tickled in real life in Prague.
Real armpit tickled.
What? Bekah, you guys segue thing again. I don't know how to.
I used my segue and then nobody followed up.
It didn't take. Like when you have like a lighter and you do the first flick and like it just does. You gotta. Like
it's really hard to have 2 armpit tickling segues, though.
If anyone can do it, it's you. I believe.
I have faith.
Speaking of armpit tickling, what have been your uncomfortable moments in your Hacktoberfest history?
Actually, hey, Bekah, that's a really good question and a wonderful segue. Thank you. This is actually something I was going to talk about before you left to get a cup of coffee in the middle of our stream.
Could.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fair. You said uncomfortable moments, and there are some so we were talking about the positive sides of becoming a maintainer and open sourcing your project and doing that things, and just from a maintainer's standpoint, there are it can be hard too. It can be difficult to navigate sometimes. And again, here's the social issues are more of a problem than the technology or code parts of it. You know what I mean? Is how to navigate some of that stuff. And as a person who is not always the best, I don't know. I don't know. My reactions to things are, usually sometimes my reactions come out you have a gut reaction to something and then you realize that, oh, okay, let's, think about this for a little bit. And, it took me a while to figure out that I needed to pause before I, before I let any gut reactions come through or whatever and think through some things and, I'll help communicate with that. But it's I think the biggest part of that is communication. All right. I'm sorry. I glanced at the chat and you guys are just Bekah, you are the one that was trying to segue us back over here, and I feel like you're not helping.
I didn't say anything. It was Kirk.
Yes, you were giggling and chatting, and it's just sometimes hard to concentrate. But I don't really have any idea what I was saying.
Responding to people in communication and taking a step back before going with your gut feeling. See.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, communication skills important, but it is a very good place to practice those and get better. I have become a much better, certainly a much better open source maintainer since the first time I did it was when we started this thing 3 years ago. And over the last 3 years have learned a ton, and I feel much better about doing it now than I. Looking back than I did. I felt confident about it going into it in the first place, but that's where you just it's just one of those things where the only way to really get good at it is to do it. And that's why that's just why I'm always like behind Kirk. Like what Kirk was saying was, it's a great time to like this is a great time to do it because we have like all of our resources are pointing towards that. I mean, not our like research on our site, but all of virtual coffee right now is doing Hacktoberfest stuff. You know what I mean? And we have a ton of support for maintainers and stuff as well. And those that support exists all year round. If you're thinking about open sourcing a project, it doesn't have to be right now, obviously, but it's a good time to do it, and you'll have uh, probably instantly have people that want to contribute if you have a project that's open source during Hacktoberfest. So I don't know. That's my little bit. Is
My goal this
just
year is to
jump in and do it.
maintain the momentum beyond Hacktoberfest, right? Like to continue to do open source projects and to work with other people at Virtual Coffee or, outside of our community and keep moving these things that I'm really excited about forward. And I think that, hopefully we can build some of that accountability into Virtual Coffee for other maintainers who want that support and contributors beyond Virtual Coffee's VCHI, Virtual Coffee Hacktoberfest initiative, and just keep going with it, because I think it is a really great way to learn more about how to contribute, how to be a maintainer, to work on that communication, because communication can be really hard. And so, this is the start of it, and we're going to keep going.
We call VCHI also because it's a reference to the word chai as like another coffee tie-in.
Yep.
No, I don't.
Yep. That's exactly what we were thinking.
Great. That's a great idea. And we were super smart for thinking of that. But also, yes, to everything that you said. Like, sustain. I don't know. I think I spend a lot of time thinking about like sustainability. In many ways, I feel like a lot of the things in my life, like I can get this like big burst of energy and do a flurry of activity, but then all that energy like goes away, and then I'm like, oh no, what do I do now? That thing I used to do all this stuff is gone. And like it sort of a lot of the stuff we've been talking about in this community just in general, and reading like about like having to not rely on like inspiration / motivation, and how to like turn things into processes and routines that either like provide you what you need to make things sustain, or like just lowering the barrier on yourself for what you have to put into things to get like the outcomes that you want. So yeah, I feel like that's a really good, I don't know, that feels like a really good goal. I should probably do the same thing. Yeah, and if Segway wants to sponsor, I don't know, do they still make those?
Yeah, I saw people like riding around them in a Segway pack in Pittsburgh.
I don't know if that's the collective mouth.
The flock.
A herd.
The herd of Segways.
Herd of Segways. It's like when Dan was in that that group of his when he was a kid, the little kids of Bad Town. I don't know. That's their name.
Yeah, that's it. What did you say it was?
Every time I mention it, I think this is like the 5th time, and every time I try and say a new name, it's like Benedict Cumberbatch. Like you can't say his real name. You have to say like Bumblebee Pumpkin Patch. Like there's no, why would you mail? Like the whole point. Anyway, it's fine. Dan was in a scooter gang.
It was not a scooter gang. At that point, I'm not going to yes end that. I don't ride scooters. I am not interested in that. It's a mountain bike gang called the Sugar Hill Pumpkin Patch Crew. I don't know. I was trying to remember what you said. But we were awesome. So, what are you going to do? Yes, Rebecca says mountain bike for the win. Yes. Agreed.
No, maybe Bekah was right about getting more coffee. I saw MTV and I was like, major trifecta baseball. I could not put that together. Okay, now the chat's just talking about bikes, and Jesse
Jesse, how
says
dare
that
you?
bikes are just low.
Jesse says bikes are just low-tech scooters, right? And I to that say, how dare you, sir?
Bikes are just overly engineered unicycles, you know, like
Yeah, it's interesting how bikes are so much like open source contributions, right?
no,
Like you've
no.
Yes.
got to learn how to get on the bike, learn how to ride the bike, and how to maintain momentum. And that's what we're trying to do here. Come on, it wasn't
Dude,
too bad.
I wish I had my soundboard here. Yes, I would have air horned that one. That one was awesome.
I don't know, just for Bekah's segues, and like a very specific sound.
Just like a crowd
Wonder-
cheering sound or something, you know.
I'm here for
Is
it.
it possible to do like an entire presentation of like only segue? I guess you can't be only segue, right? Because like a segue is like a conjunction. So like you need
Yeah.
things to
But
conjunct.
you could write
I
an
bet
awesome
you-
segue between each slide or something if you're doing a talk, if that's what we're talking about, you know.
I think
That'd be awesome.
I would argue that you only need to start with one thing, and then the entire rest of the presentation could be rolling segues.
Right. Because a segue can segue from one segue to another.
Speaking of rolling segues,
functional program.
Functional programming. Yeah. Segues make me think of the White and Nerdy Weird Al music video, which is amazing. If you
My 8-year-old
haven't seen it.
listens to that like every single day. Julia
That's where
is
you
going
learn to twerk.
great. Julia's got some really good extensions here. It's easy to buy a bike, but you need someone to help you learn how to maintain it. Absolutely right. It's easier to keep up the routine maintenance and get the most out of your bike investment if you have other cyclists around to mentor you and ride with you. This is great. There's an entire blog post right here in the chat. Somebody just needs to put it together.
And then you can tie in that phrase that tech people say sometimes, bike shedding. And it all.
Is that
We're
really
bike
a
shedding.
thing?
We're bike shedding the segue.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Just
means.
like dog fooding and
See, I specifically
what
didn't
is the
say
other
that
one?
one.
Shotgun foot gunning,
cat treating.
cat treating, and no.
No. Bike shedding is the real phrase that people actually say. It is far more tolerable than.
I'm very
dog
curious
food.
to know why it's bike shed and not like some other kind of shed. So bike shedding, for those of you who don't know, is in computer when you're talking about it with development, it's like spending all of your time and resources on this thing that's sitting on the side instead of your house, right? So like in the metaphor, your house is like the actual app or whatever you're working on, and the bike shed is just this like little thing on the side, and you're making your bike shed really fancy, but not working on your house. Like that's the I don't use the term, but that's what the term means.
Yeah.
But like, why
Say,
bike
like, if you're
shed
doing a
and
ton
not,
testing that thing, doing it.
right? But like, is a bike shed a thing? Do people have? I suppose they probably do somewhere.
I think it's just in their garage.
I don't know, but like, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, of all the things to choose for that metaphor, why a bike shed is my question.
Because maybe
Speaking
they're
of
part
bike sheds,
a bike gang.
oh yeah, yak shaving. I don't remember what that one means.
Can't
I've
use
heard
that out
one.
loud. This is a family
is that
podcast.
am I getting code of conducted? All right.
I think my next Hacktoberfest project will be a bot that just takes like random noun and then one of these things and just puts it together and then just makes up some sort of nonsense definition. It's like, these are all the tech terms. I put them all in this bot,
I love that.
What was that one you said earlier? Cat feeding?
Cat treating, I think she said.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah. That'll be my next project. I feel like we can slowly but surely, I feel like we have managed to talk a little bit about OSS and open source. And I feel like for those of you listening and watching, if you take anything away from this, it is that we really enjoy this time. And in many ways, Hacktoberfest is the thing that like really solidified a lot of parts of virtual coffee. It was how the maintainers sort of like became the maintainers. It was how we like normalized a ton of things. It was how we like set the direction for a ton of things. It was how I think a lot of us made the decision to this wasn't like this was like, oh, this is VC is like a thing that we want to keep doing, and like it exists as like a space that can do a lot of good, you know, in addition to like the personal good it was doing for us, but just like a really good thing to be like kept and maintained. So we care about it a lot, and we're really excited that it's still happening. We're still sort of feeling the way we felt about it at the beginning, because at the end of the day, like Hacktoberfest really isn't about the like individual projects we're working on. It's about the collaboration with other people. And the only reason I managed to get through any of that is because I explicitly did not read whatever Julia just posted about ostriches. I saw that word and I turned away. And you should be proud of me.
I'm proud of you. It's impressive.
You did an excellent job, Kirk. You did a much better job than Dan and I normally do on the podcast, wrapping things up. So I think it's probably a good time to wrap up and think about what Kirk said.
I always think about what Kirk said. I spend most of my time.
I never think about
what Kirk says. Yes, I know. I mean, I just also like to add, I mean, thank you to everybody that is here today. And thank you to everybody who's been contributing to Hacktoberfest and listen to our podcast and hanging out in virtual coffee. Like Kirk said, this is like, I mean, this is my favorite time of the year for virtual coffee stuff. The Hacktoberfest stuff is really exciting for me. I love open source stuff in general. I'm going to say stuff a few more times in this sentence, and then I'll wrap it up. But I don't know. It's just a good time, and yeah, has a special place in my heart too, because of the reasons Kirk said. Sort of the genesis of a lot of the things that are actually happening in virtual coffee now, and it's
including the podcast.
Including the podcast, and the website itself didn't exist. I made it so that we could have that issue, to have people add themselves as members, and so a lot of stuff came out from Hacktoberfest V1, VChai V1. So
we are grateful for everyone here and for this Hacktoberfest season.
All right. Well, then I think with that we'll wrap up. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. Follow us on, all the things. We're Virtual Coffee IO, most places. So if you haven't yet, follow, subscribe, whatever you do in whatever app that exists in the world. And here I am. I'm at the end of my sentence, and I don't know how to wrap up. So somebody finish this thing, and then I'll hit end.
Thanks for being here, friends.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. This episode was produced by Dan Ott and Bekah Harat-Weigel. If you have questions or comments, you can hit us up on Twitter at virtualcoffeeio or email us at podcast@virtualcoffee.io. You can find the show notes, sign up for the newsletter, check out any of our other resources on our website, virtualcoffee.io. If you're interested in sponsoring Virtual Coffee, you can find out more information on our website at virtualcoffee.io/sponsorship. Please subscribe to our podcast and be sure to leave us a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.